What's up, DSR TV? And I kind of forgot about this series. I'm happy that somebody actually told me in the comment section to go back and keep on doing those episodes because I completely forgot about this. So, we're gonna watch the Mongols Invasion part. I think this is 5, maybe. Yeah, I think it's 5. So, it's gonna be in the title. So you know what part it is. But I don't as I'm making this video. But yeah, so this one's the Battle of Legencia and Mohi. I don't know. I think it's Moai. But yeah, 1241. So this one's gonna be a good video. It's by Kings and Generals, and yeah, we always love Kings and Generals on this channel. And also subscribe to the channel. Want to get 1,000 subscribers by Valentine's Day, and we are really almost there. We're almost halfway there. We're at 400 subscribers, a little bit over 400. So yeah, keep subscribing to the channel, and let's get to this goal. Yeah, so let's get to it and play.
This video was sponsored by The Great Courses Plus. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com today to start your free trial. Genghis Khan is dead. However, his sons and grandsons are now taking over his empire, and the spirit of conquest within the Mongols is still strong. What happened to the Rus princedoms, Bulgars, Kipchaks and others during the expedition of Jebe and Subutai was just a precursor to the invasion of Batu Khan. What started with the fall of Kiev and the battles of Legnica and Mohi would then turn into a centuries-long nightmare for Eastern Europe. Genghis Khan passed away in 1229. And his son Ogedei became the Great Khan. He was a talented administrator who transformed the Mongols from a tributary to a tax-based empire and commissioned the construction of the capital, Karakorum. He developed the Yasa law, created a postal service, introduced paper currency, and created civil service exams open to everyone, while implementing a culture of religious tolerance. This colossal shift from nomadic to bureaucratic governance led to a period of prosperity called the Pax Mongolica. In the next few decades, Mongol conquests had 3 main directions: Central and Southern China, Central Asia, Iran, the Caucasus and the Middle East, and modern-day Russia and Eastern Europe. As these 3 were often detached theatres, each of the next 3 videos will focus on one direction, starting with the invasion of Europe.
Okay.
In 1235, the Mongol Kurultai decided to send a big army to conquer Europe. 130,000, commanded by the son of Jochi, Batu, headed to the region. By 1237, Volga Bulgaria was conquered. Crimea and the lands of the Kipchaks, Alans and others were next, and by the end of summer of that year, all the lands to the east of the Don River belonged to the Mongols.
Well, that was easy.
In November, Batu Khan sent his envoys to the court of Prince Yuri II of Vladimir Suzdal and demanded his allegiance. It is not clear what happened during this embassy, but in February of 1238, the capital of the princedom, Vladimir, was razed by the Mongols. The chronology of events are open to debate, but we know that in 1238 and 1239, many Rus princedoms were destroyed and their capitals were razed. The Mongols moved fast, dividing and conquering along the way, not allowing the Rus to unite their forces. The biggest open battle of this campaign happened near the river Sit, and the Mongols prevailed. The only major cities to escape destruction were Novgorod and Pskov, as they accepted Mongol authority. By the end of 1239, the Mongols returned beyond the Don. Batu had to send some of his forces south to help in the conquest of the Caucasus, while the forces of Mongol were recalled to Mongolia, so the Mongols spent the spring of 1240 recruiting troops from local tribes. In the summer of the same year, the Mongols restarted their offensive. The biggest, most prosperous Rus city, Kiev, was besieged in September. The envoys sent in were killed, and the city fell after a 3-month-long siege. All 50,000 locals were massacred.
Ooh.
With the Rus Principality...
I did not know that they did a lot. Like, I guess I didn't know that they expanded that far west. I mean, I know they had like really one of the biggest empires ever. I guess I just didn't realize how far that empire stretched.
belonging to the Golden Horde, the Mongols now looked towards Central Europe. The Venetians delivered on their deal with Subutai and provided him with valuable information on the kingdoms they were facing, which allowed him to plan a devastating campaign against all of Europe. In December of 1240, the Mongols were ready to pounce on Poland and Hungary. Batu sent several messengers to the High Duke of Poland, Henry II, and the King of Hungary, Bela IV. Both of these envoys were killed. The Mongols invaded Central Europe in 3 columns. The first group was tasked with distracting Poland.
I know you guys have seen that, and I seen it too. Don't kill my envoy t-shirts. That's a good t-shirt. I would definitely get that.
Baidar, Kedan and Orda with 2 Tumans. The second, mainly Batu and Subutai with 3 to 4 Tumans, crossed the Carpathian Mountains through the Vareka Pass, and a third followed the Danube River. In late 1240, the first force advanced against Poland with a remarkable speed of 50 miles per day, sacking Lublin and Sandomierz on the 13th of February 1241. They then split their force. 1 Tumen under Orda moved to central Poland, and another under Baidar and Kedan swept south, defeating a small contingent at the Battle of Tursko in late February 1240. The capital of Poland, Krakow, was abandoned, looted, and then burned. Then the Mongols advanced on the central city of Silesia, Wrocław, which was left undefended by the Polish nobility in the hope of buying more time to assemble an army. While setting up for a siege of the city, Baidar and Kedan received reports that a great host was marching towards them, so they turned from Wrocław to intercept the Polish army before it got a chance to unite with the big Bohemian army. The 2 armies met on April 9th at the field of Legnica. The Polish army, led by Henry II, had around 7,000 to 8,000 troops, most of them from Poland, with contingents from Moravia, Bavaria and the Teutonic Order, while the Mongol force under Baidar was slightly less numerous, with around 6,000 troops. The Polish force consisted of heavy cavalry, infantry and peasants, while the Mongol force was made up of the usual horse archers and heavy lancers. The battlefield was a plain surrounded by small rivers. The center of the Christian army consisted of 3 lines of cavalry, with infantry on the flanks and a smaller reserve under Henry in the rear. Baidar divided his troops into 4 divisions, each with a mix of horse archers and lancers. The first line of the Polish cavalry charged against the Mongol vanguard, but was pushed back after some initial success. Henry then sent the rest of his cavalry forward, and this time, under the pressure, the Mongols began to withdraw. The Allied cavalry gave chase, separating themselves from the infantry. A signal was given by the Mongol commander to set fire to the plants growing on the field. This created a dense smoke and smell, unbearable to the Christian army, and its infantry on the flanks failed to see the battlefield clearly. In that moment, the Mongol horse archers began firing at the confused riders, disorientated by the smoke. The cavalry was annihilated, and that left only the unarmored peasants on the flanks completely exposed. With no support, the Polish wings were massacred. Henry attempted to flee from the battlefield, but was caught, killed, and beheaded. His severed head was displayed on a pike in front of the town of Legnica, striking fear into the populace. While Bajdar was busy slaughtering the Polish nobility at Legnica, 600 kilometers to the south, King Bela of Hungary was lining up his armies for battle after 6 days of chasing the main Mongol force under Batu and Subutai in a campaign eerily similar to Khalkha. He ordered a fortified camp of wagons to be constructed near the Sayo River, refusing.
Well, that was a quick first battle. But so yeah, let's get into we're getting into the second battle now. So let's watch and see how this one turns out, because that was very quick.
To take the bait. While the terrain was plain, the river had flooded and could only be crossed via a narrow 200-meter long bridge. The Mongols had around 15 to 20,000 troops and were outnumbered by the 40,000 strong Hungarian army, of which about 15,000 were cavalry. The Hungarians had contingents from Croatia, Austria, and the Order of the Templars. After hearing that the Mongols were crossing the bridge under the Veil of Darkness, the Hungarians moved, marching 7 kilometers in the dark and descending upon the bridge at midnight. The Mongol vanguard was destroyed as their horse archers were exposed during the night and unprepared for the enemy crossbowmen. The Hungarian army left a small force to guard the bridge as they returned to camp to celebrate, thinking that the invaders had been repulsed. On the morning of April 11th, 1241, Subutai sent a force north to cross through a shallow spot in the river, while he was making his way south via a makeshift bridge. Meanwhile, Batu ordered 7 heavy catapults to bombard and distract the crossbowmen guarding the bridge. After stalling for a while, the northern troops descended upon the bridge guards from the rear and routed them. At the Hungarian camp, a great argument broke out as the king was blamed for not preparing his force for another engagement. This gave time for the Mongols to cross the river. Still, the Hungarians were once again gaining the upper hand as Batu failed to organize his troops in a proper formation. As the Mongols were being pushed against the river with nowhere to run, Subutai miraculously joined the engagement and attacked the Hungarians from the rear. Subutai then rallied the troops, who had seen heavy casualties, and ordered them to surround the Hungarian camp, to which Bela had retreated. Their mangonels bombarded the camp with stones, while archers shot flaming arrows. The Hungarians attempted to break the encirclement on 3 occasions, but were repelled each time. Once again, the Mongols left a gap, giving Hungarian troops hope of escape. Most of the defenders fled for their lives, only to be chased down by more archers lying in ambush. This trick meant that the Mongols would be killing the enemy while they were running instead of fighting for their lives, which allowed them to avoid extra casualties. The Hungarian army ceased to exist. Bela made it to safety, but the entire population of Hungary was left at the mercy of Subutai's troops. In the span of 2 days, the strongest kingdoms of Central Europe were defeated. With free reign over Hungary, the Mongols did what they did best, ravaged the countryside, starting with pest. More than half of the settlements in the plains of Hungary were destroyed. It is said that Hungary lost around 500,000 of its population. The Mongols then invaded Serbia and Bulgaria. These lands were ravaged, and Bulgaria was forced to become a tributary to the Mongols for several decades. As the situation was only getting direr, the Pope called for an anti-Mongol crusade. Meanwhile, the Holy Roman Emperor began to levy his troops and organize a defense. The Mongols were planning to reach the Atlantic Ocean, and there was no army strong enough to stand in their way. However, this was not to occur. The great Khan Ogedei passed away in December of 1241, and Batu, along with most of his troops, had to return to Mongolia to participate in the elections of the next leader of the Mongol Empire. Europe was saved. While creating this documentary, we used the series of...
That was a really good documentary, though. Yeah. So we're gonna, come back in for another part some point in the future, and yeah. Happy I got back to this, and also comment stuff in the comment section down below, because I forgot that I even did the Mongol invasion. So yeah. Yeah, we'll get back into it. Also subscribe to the channel. Want to get down subscribers by Valentine's Day. And yeah, talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.